Only about 10% of the population is left-handed, and I'm one of them. And that means I'm part of the most oppressed group out there. Not having the right to vote for decades, that's nothing in comparison to not having desks made for your preferred hand in your classroom. Or being forced to golf righty because your family didn't have any left-handed clubs. Or not being able to use a pair of normal freaking scissors. And worst of all, us lefties even face inconveniences in gaming. I know I'm being overdramatic, but I thought it might be interesting to explain how being left-handed affects gaming, since it's something I've experienced that not everyone has. When using the left side of your body, you're generally using the right side of your brain. In left-handed people, researchers have found that the area of the motor cortex that controls the hand is bigger on the right side of the brain, and vice versa for right-handed people. So in the earliest times of gaming, when camera controls weren't much of a thing, I think left-handed gamers may have had a slight advantage actually. Arcade cabinets and most early controllers had joystick or D-pad on the left side, and moving the joystick might require more motor skill than just pushing down on a button. Like I mentioned earlier, 90% of the population is right-handed, so products are going to be designed primarily for the right-handed person, leading to small inconveniences here or there for the left-handed person. For example, if I record my gameplay on PlayStation VR, it records the view from the right eye. When I play a game that uses guns and I'm aiming with my left eye, the footage can look kind of weird. I know this is something that doesn't really matter at all, but sometimes there are big disadvantages that us left-handeds have to go through. And the biggest for me has been the DS and 3DS. Now, I love the DS and 3DS and spent countless hours playing both. For most games, there was no problem, but for some that required you to use the touchscreen, there was. Using the stylus with your non-dominant hand is like trying to write with your non-dominant hand. While some games did offer a left-handed option where the buttons on the right would act like the D-pad, I remember 1 or 2 games I played that wouldn't. I'd get by just not using the stylus at all and just resorting to using my finger, which is not that great with the DS touchscreen. The 3DS had an actual control stick pad thing, so now using the right side buttons like a D-pad definitely felt worse than using the control stick. I remember this being the biggest issue when I was playing Kid Icarus Uprising. It was a really fun game, but I'd often get frustrated that I was stuck using a D-pad instead of the control stick because it made controlling character feel a lot worse. Personally, one of my favorite controllers of all time was the Wiimote paired with the nunchucks. I know not a lot of people like motion controls, but I did, and I love the way you could just switch hands and not have to mess with that game settings. Playing both the Mario Galaxies with the Wiimote in my left hand and the nunchuck in my right just felt perfect. And that brings us to the most recent left-handed disadvantage, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Apparently, if you want to play with your Joy-Cons, you can only point the star pointer with your right hand. It can't be mapped to the left Joy-Con. Just another disappointment for that already disappointing game, which I actually made a video about, so if you'd like to hear more about, go watch. But for most modern controllers, there probably isn't much of a difference. However, there might be something. For most shooting games, aiming requires much more accuracy than moving, and aiming is done with the right thumb. So basically what I'm saying is, I made this video to explain how when I lost 9-10 to my friend on a 1v1 in Rust, it wasn't because he was better than me. It was because I have the disadvantage of being left-handed and having to aim with my right thumb, and I have to overcome that disadvantage, and he still only beat me by 1.